So I'm going to talk about the time that I overdosed. I have overdosed multiple times, but there was only one time where I actually had to go to the hospital. Um, so I'm not going to get in my whole story. Maybe another time I'll make a video about that. But I struggled with drugs half my life, uh, mainly opiates and a lot of other stuff too. But at this point, I was at a period in my life where I was not using daily. I was probably drinking a lot, maybe not every day, but I wasn't using drugs daily. I would smoke weed and I would drink and sorry. So we were in between houses. We were trying to move. We had just sold my girl's house and we had money and we were trying to go to a new place. So we were temporarily staying at a place called Budget Suites, which is a shithole, and there's a bunch of crime, and it's awful, but that was the only place we could get in on short notice, so that's where we went. So at this point, I was not using regularly. Every once in a while, I would. So this day, I happened to be drinking, and I was like very drunk to where later I didn't even remember that I had done this. But so I was drinking and almost to blackout levels drunk when I contacted my heroin dealer. I put in an order. He wasn't like a real dealer, he's like a middleman. So he was going to have to go out and actually get it for me and then bring it to me. So I called him, set everything up. He came by later, and since he had gone out and picked things up for me, I decided to get him high as well. So we were sitting there, and we had started smoking the heroin off of foil, because that's what I was doing to get him high while I was sitting there preparing a shot. So, so we're sitting there, we're smoking the heroin, and we're packing up a bowl of weed, and I had just finished preparing my shot, and we had started passing the weed back and forth, and I did my shot. And I remember we were just sitting there, and I was hitting the bowl of weed, and I dropped to my knees. And he asked me, "Dude, are you okay?" I said, yeah, I'm good. And then I just fell over and started turning blue. So me and my girl were fighting already because I was obliterated. She was done with me at that point. And I had called over a heroin dealer, so she was not talking to me. But I'm on the floor, turning blue. He doesn't know what to do, so he goes and knocks on the door where she is sleeping, and he wakes her up. So she comes in, and everything from here on out is like secondhand, because obviously I was out. All this information is just coming from the people that were around. But she comes in, I'm on the floor, blue. They try to start waking me up and just beating the shit out of me. Mostly him, I think, because he was freaking out. And he had picked me up and he was like slapping my face back and forth. I had like a black eye and like a cracked rib or something the next day. But I understand why they were doing it, because you're watching someone die. You want them to wake up. But he starts crying. He doesn't know what to do because he's fucked. He sold it to me. It's on my texts. If I die, he's gonna be in deep shit. So he starts crying and begging my girl to let him leave. He says, "Please just let me leave. Call the cops and let me leave." So that's what she does. She calls the cops, and before he leaves, she either gives him or he takes all of the drugs in the house, and he leaves. So she's there, and she says for 15 minutes, which could be exaggerated, but she was giving me CPR for 15 minutes. She said I was turning blue, and she would do some compressions on my chest, and she would see the colors start to come back to my lips. So she's doing that, and she's on the phone to the ambulance, and she's freaking out. Well, they finally get there. She says they just burst into the house, tons of cops, like 9 cops, tons of, EMT workers, and they instantly start searching everything for drugs. They start looking in the microwave. They start looking just everywhere, in the trash cans, just trying to find the drugs so that they could give me a charge. That's their main motivation. But apparently the ambulance people had come in and they gave me a shot of Narcan. I don't know if it was one or if they had to use multiple, but they had administered Narcan to me and it woke me up. And when I woke up, I had no clue what was going on. I have cops all around me. I'm laying on the ground. There's this, like, ambulance people. My girl's over here freaking out. And I wake up and I forget that I had done drugs because I was drunk. I didn't remember that I even did drugs. So they're asking me, where's the drugs? And I'm sitting there saying, what the fuck are they talking about? What drugs? I was like literally saying I'm drunk. I've been drinking. What are you talking about? But then they like literally point out on my arm and there's a little hole there and they say, you've obviously injected something. And I was like, nope, bullshit. Go ahead and try and find it, but luckily they found nothing. And so once they've given me the Narcan, I come out of it. Everyone's around me. They start loading me into the ambulance. And I'm just so confused. I think maybe on the ride to the hospital or once I got to the hospital, I finally like remembered that I had done heroin. And as far as it was to me, if you guys want to know what it was like, it's exactly what I said. I'm sitting there smoking weed. I said, I'm good. And then just black, darkness. Saw nothing, felt nothing until I woke up from the Narcan. So that's what it felt like. But afterwards, once I had made my way to the hospital, I had gained this clarity of I was not feeling high anymore. I was not feeling good. My mind was clear, which at that time was not fun for me because I like to just shut my mind down at that time. But yeah, so I'm in the hospital and I'm just in shock. I'm like, how did this happen? What the hell happened? And I told myself I'm never, ever gonna fucking do that shit again, ever. Of course, that's bullshit, but at the time, that's what I thought. And then, of course, I got home the next day and I started calling the guy, asking where my stuff was. He didn't want to bring it to me, but good. I'm glad he didn't. And luckily now, I am over 3 years sober and doing great. I have a family and I run 5 miles almost every day. And I'm very happy, and I'm happy that I lived through this experience.